All right, Evan, last season, the amazing Spider season, as a matter of fact. It dropped September 3rd, 2024. Let's talk about what happened in that season. We got our first card that came out with the purchase of Marvel Snap for the season. Symbiote Spider-Man, 4 cost, 7 power. You said they buffed him?
Yeah, they pushed him up to a 7.
Okay, all right.
They didn't think people were using him as much. And
Wow.
I'm like, I see him all the time.
I've seen him quite a bit. He's got to activate one of the first cards to use the ability, which is you press the card and you merge your lowest card with the Symbiote Spider-Man. And then copy its text like it just revealed. I definitely saw this card a lot. I'm surprised they thought nobody was using this card very much.
Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but they thought that people were still kind of hesitant that the reward wasn't as big as the risk. But I mean, a 4/6, I mean, that's
still
big grim right there.
Right. What do you think of Symbiote Spider-Man?
Well, I think I missed the point of him when we were talking about him last month. I was like, oh, so he's just a bigger, badder Hulkbuster. No. He's a Hulkbuster with the power of Odin or the Absorbing Man.
Right.
The real value is triggering that on reveal ability again. One of the first oh crap moments was the first time somebody activated him on Galactus.
Yeah.
You best believe I did that a lot last season, or at least tried to. Black Panther is another great one. I put on here just the other day, I managed to, I had a deck I called Maximum Clonage and managed to, I played Hulkbuster on Nico, I think so, and then played the Symbiote on both of them. It was where Nico doubled the power of the next card. Somehow I got a 38-point card. One lane with Nico, Hulkbuster, and Symbiote. Now, how do I recreate that math?
Did you see the Reddit post of the one guy who played a Symbiote Spider-Man? Then he played Galactus. This was like on the left-hand side. And then he laid down Grandmaster, moved him over to the middle where he was winning, and then killed everybody at that point.
Oh, wow.
There was a lot you could do with that card. It definitely hit the mark. It was definitely an impact player in my opinions. All right, next up is Silver Sable. 1 cost, 1 power on reveal. Steal 2 power from the top card of your opponent's deck. I definitely went for this one. I was like, oh, I have plans with this. I'm going to use Wong. I'm going to use Mystique and just destroy somebody's card if I can. It was fun to use, but I used it like probably, I don't know, maybe for like 2 or 3 days, and I moved on to another deck that was a little bit more successful. How about you?
I used her all the time. She was my most used card of the season.
Oh, wow.
She's not a game breaker, but it's hard to argue for another one unless you're playing a specific archetype. 1 cost usually gets you 3 power and -2 on one of your opponent's cards. You can't get much better than that, and there's no drawback. 1 cost, 3 power for Blade. Yeah, sometimes he can activate something cool with a discard, but he can also cause you problems if you try to get clever and generate Black Knight's Ebony Blade and then play Blade, as I've done several times. So, there's not much downside. And then, if you can get her with Wong or Odin or Beast, or even I've used Symbiote Spider-Man on her a few times, she can start to add up. If she's not going to single-handedly win a lane, but you start, adding a point here, taking a couple points there, she can be pretty effective. There's certain cards that you want in there, but if you're just like, oh, I might put another 1-cost card. I know some people don't even go with the 1-cost cards. Outside of Sunspot, maybe, who's a general 1-cost, maybe Quinjet, if you've got a deck that's going to add a bunch of cards for you. But I mean, really, she's just a all-around utility player that fits in with just about anything and can work well with decks that repeat. If you're running Marvel Boy, why not have her in there? And she's also a quick way to boost her up and give you another +1 for Gilgamesh.
That's a good argument. I mean, a solid argument there. Next up, Madam Web, 2 cost, 1 power. Ongoing, you can move one of your other cards away from here each turn. Oh boy, was I waiting for this card. I couldn't wait to have this one in my deck because I thought I am going to be able to do so much with it. As far as the move decks go, yes, I think she made an impact because she gives you a lot more things that you can do with your move cards and combinations of those. But as far as winning games, one of the things I noticed is I just could not get enough power out there to stay on the board or to be on the board. I had a couple different things I tried with her. I tried a C3 deck, and that unfortunately didn't work out the greatest because the C3 deck is pretty useful. Almost every card in there is useful, especially trying to bring down locations, things that affect the power of other cards. But I still could not get these decks going for some reason. Granted, I didn't stay too long on these decks, but I still think Madam Web was pretty important and useful a lot of times. I did see her quite a bit. I did think it was neat that I could use her with Professor X, laid out Professor X, but that's turn 5. By the time turn 5 rolls around, if you're just waiting on everything to get going with turn 5, you've only got one turn left. Every lane is pretty much filled up where it needs to be. Professor X moving around is not going to be very useful. But still, if you get him out there earlier, then yeah, move him around, and maybe you could take somebody by surprise. But anyway, how about you? What do you think of Madam Web?
She was one of the ones I wanted the most, and I dropped 4 spotlight keys to get her. Even after you said, I'm not sure if she's as good as we think she'll be. Most of my move decks, and I know they were really trying to get move back on the map, but most of my move decks end up having Phoenix in them. This gives you, and Phoenix, once she resurrects a card, can move herself, but this lets you move some of those others because you don't want to just count on 1 or 2 cards. I started doing the Phoenix move deck, or as I like to call it, the Moving Tribunal. I try to build up one of those cards a lot and then spread the wealth. One thing I kept running into was Human Torch getting taken down by Shang-Chi or Killmonger enough to where it was like, again. So I got kind of hesitant to use him. I took him out for a little while, but the one that I put in, Multiple Man, I would always see everybody destroying and then bringing back Multiple Man with Phoenix, and I'm like, why? He can't get above an 8. No, he can't get above an 8. He can't be taken down by Killmonger or Shang-Chi, and he keeps making 8s. So that was where I was using him. I just had Madam Web as a supporting piece because I had the Vulture, but I went back to the Torch. I have Torch, Dagger, and Multiple Man in there. So I have Madam Web moving pieces, after Phoenix moves to try to build some of that up. She definitely works in there. I didn't really think of this, but she would be useful to have against a card that came out of nowhere this season. Apparently, judging by online responses, everybody else knew it. There's a whole lot of War Machine decks this season.
Okay.
When they switched War Machine back to an ongoing, and so if you've got somebody shutting down all kinds of locations and still able to get in them, then having Madam Web might come in handy.
True. Very true.
She can move anybody, and there's lots of cards that move cards, but I think Madam Web gives you more control over moving your own cards. You know where they're going to go with Ghost Spider or Iron Fist, but you'll have to figure out the order of operations. There have been times where I'm like, need to pull them over with Ghost Spider and then have Hercules throw them. I play Hercules first, then Ghost Spider pulls Hercules or doesn't do anything because I played her on the same one as Hercules. Madam Web's simple. Put her down. Once per turn, she can move someone wherever you want them to move. I think part of the reason that I was excited about Madam Web was just because it reminded me of, even though I was reading the comics since I could read, I met Madam Web on the animated Spider-Man series.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so that's what I always think of, even though she's part of a classic Spider-Man story in the comics where he takes on the Juggernaut, but it kind of reminded me of that.
Okay.
It definitely was not because of the movie.
Yeah, no boy. All right, next up is Aranya. 1 cost, 1 power, activate, give the next card you play +2 power and move it to the right. And yes, this card and Human Torch were usually the combo that I've seen. So yeah, anything.
It'd be great with any of those movers.
Yeah, throwing her out there, throwing them out there, giving them +2 power. I mean, I saw this a fair amount. Oh, granted, it came in later in the season here, so it's not like I'm seeing it too much. But what about you?
Yeah, I saw her a few times after I greened all my spotlight keys. I didn't even try for her because I wanted the next card. I thought she'd be good with those. I've seen her a bunch, haven't been beaten down too much by her. But again, it's like Madam Web. It's another way to have more control over where you're moving your cards or to make it simpler. You know where a lot of them go. They're not all random. Again, if you're too quick on it and you get your math mixed up, it can cause a problem. So she gives you a little bit more predictability or makes it a little easier to do what you're trying to do. But after my dogged pursuit of Madam Web, I did not have enough spotlight keys for Aranya, and who could have seen that coming? Precognitive joke there. Actually, I guess I did have a key or two, but I was saving them for the next card.
Scarlet Spider, 4 cost, 5 power, activate, add an exact clone of this to another location. What were your thoughts of this card?
False advertising because it's not an exact clone. It's different artwork, which is cool, but I mean, really, that's what I was like, that looks cool. That might even be cooler than the original one, but it's not an exact clone. As far as gameplay, it was pretty fun. What I wanted to do from the moment I saw these cards is I want to get Scarlet Spider. Maybe I'll clone him, maybe I won't. Then I'm going to combine him with Symbiote Spider-Man and send a 12-point clone to another location. Can't do it.
Oh no.
I don't fully understand it. I went on Reddit and somebody said it cancels out the other activate. The way they explained it made sense. It says the text will be as if the card just revealed, which to me means you can still activate it. I think I even tried it. Like, it's not like I may have tried to activate him twice, but even if you combine him, he just doesn't activate at all.
Hulkbuster would work, I would assume then.
Yeah, but Hulkbuster becomes the other card. The symbiote takes over.
Okay. All right.
When you combine it with Hulkbuster, it's still your original card with 3 extra points. When you activate the symbiote, it becomes the Symbiote Spider-Man, but it does have the other card's text, which to me still should let you activate it, but It doesn't, and that's okay. Because I still ended up using them in that maximum clonage deck I was talking about. Just gives you a couple different options. And I mean, once you sent your clone over there, there's nothing wrong with bonding with the symbiote and having 12 power there or more. I threw a few different things in that. It's been working pretty well. I try to get other ways to build Scarlet Spider up as much as I can before I clone him. So you got Nico, Okoye, and Nakia. You can put Hulkbuster on him. He'll still make a clone after he's been Hulkbustered. Phastos, Shuri, Gwenpool, all those. And then as long as I'm boosting everybody up, I bring in Gilgamesh at the end for the coup de grace.
I don't have Gilgamesh. He has really been a thorn in my side in some games. He will come in and they'll just be like, boom. Oh, okay. Well, I've lost that lane.
I use them together, but like I said, I can't really complain that it doesn't activate because it's pretty darn good as it is. It was just funny. I was like, well, I am putting Symbiote Spider-Man on Scarlet Spider. Have they ever done a thing where Ben Reilly gets the symbiote and all this stuff? And then it's just like, nope, sorry, you can't do that. You can only symbiote Galactus and Black Panther and do all this other stuff. But that one you wanted to do, no, sorry.
Not going to happen. Wow. Well, yeah, for my immediate thought was I'm going to make a C5 deck. And that, unfortunately, is not very feasible. It's not something that you can do and win a lot with. And the reason for that, it's not that you can't find the cards and that the cards don't work the greatest together. It's the fact that you don't have things that will somehow change the power or change locations. You know, you can't use Scarlet Witch in there. You can't use magic. Mm-hmm. Those are all cards that don't have a 5 power. If I remember correctly, I didn't have any problem finding cards, but Monster Metropolis popped out a 10-point monster. Okay, well, that eliminates Cerebro because it's going to absorb all that. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. You know, I could pop that clone out. It'll be good. But, you know, oh, nope, I've got Xandar. Oh, nope, I've got the sewer system.
Yeah. It doesn't help you with Monster Island, but maybe putting a Magic or Rhino in there, even though they're not 5 points, just to get rid of those problematic ones. Problem is with Scarlet Witch, you get rid of one, you could come up with something worse.
Yeah, Scarlet Witch, that's usually one of the big things I got to worry about with my C3 deck is her creating one. But, you know, that's usually few and far between. Anyway, I used them a couple times trying to do a C5 deck, and I was like, okay, I'll set this one aside. I want to continue to play some other stuff. So I didn't really use them a whole lot just yet. So I might have something useful later on down the road. All right, let's get into locations. We got Brooklyn Bridge up first. You can't play cards here 2 turns in a row. And I did have Legion ready to go for this one. It made things pretty fun. Usually I'd play at turn 5. People would be like, oh, crap, you know, I can't play anything here now. So it would really dictate how the end of the game was going to go. Sometimes you knew if you could retreat earlier or not. It was fun. I can't say I had too many really interesting interactions with it. How about you?
On a roundabout way, Brooklyn Bridge got me to Infinite.
Really?
Because I was messing around with the deck for it, and I stumbled upon a pretty darn good deck.
Okay.
We can talk about that in the meta.
All right. Then Otto's Lab. The next card you play here pulls a card to the enemy side from their hand. I had grand plans to Legion this thing all day long, but I never did. I didn't get around to it, so I didn't play as much as I wanted to that day. How about you?
I did play it a few times. I don't think I really did anything special for it. I wrote in the notes, it's a frustrating and fun wrinkle. I always feel like, okay, I got to get a card out here. And then sometimes I'm like, why did I do that? But I also had it yank out plenty of cards that I wished it hadn't. So it does have some of that unpredictability with the original Doc Ock. Maybe that's what they should make it, because what they did now, he just pulls one card, but it's the lowest cost card. This one's totally random, so it can mess stuff up. It's a neat addition. That's not going to win or lose you a lot of games, but it can screw up your strategy. Play something before you're ready. It's a neat way to adapt a character power into a location. So I think it's pretty fun. I've seen it a few times even after it was featured.
Yeah, they've used it quite a few times in games that I was playing too. All right, well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is our thoughts on the Amazing Spider season. Thanks a lot for joining us. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the next installment of Snap Material.